The 1986 to 1989 Stratford Hillers were the team to beat. They won Intercounty Championships in 1986, 1987, and 1989 and just missed out on winning 4 in a row when they lost in Game 7 of the 1988 Championship Final. While no other team won more than 2 championships from 1974 to 1994, the Hillers managed to win 10 championships as they dominated the league. Contenders would change from London to Brantford to St. Thomas to Toronto, to Niagara Falls and Kitchener and Guelph. But the Stratford Hillers were continuously in the thick of the championship race year after year.
There's a lot of statements about teams being dynasties and dominant and that kind of thing, but lots of times I think that claim is made and it's not all that valid, but I really do think it is valid with the Stratford Hillers, particularly in this era. Although, there were 3 different times in the 70s, 80s, and 90s where we won 3 out of 4 years. From this point, from 86 through 95, we actually won 6 championships and were in the finals twice, so we were 2 games away in Game 7 from being 8 out of 10. I would say that would qualify as a dynasty, and we're pretty proud, and most of our players are really proud of being a part of what happened during that time frame. The reasons why that happened is I really do think that we had a desire to win more than other teams did, and it was instilled within our culture that's all that it was about. We weren't focused on winning the first 10, 15 games of the year. We were focused on winning the last game of the year. And we built our teams and built our momentum in that manner. And it proved to be successful year after year.
Baseball's such a team game that we had such a great nucleus citywide. We could field the team and then rely on our import pitchers to come in and supplement what we already had in place. There was something magical about Stratford, and I think people kind of found that out and wanted to come play for us because we had so much success in the 70s and 80s.
And this may seem a little hokey, but we wanted that fire truck ride at the end of the year. Grown men running around town or driving around town, I guess, screaming at the top of our lungs on a fire truck, and yet that's what we wanted every year.
That was kind of the goal at the start of the year, was to get that fire truck ride. And more than not, we were successful until the police shut us down. Late, I think early 90s, they put an end to that. We're making too many noises in the middle of the night.
We have so many players that played on those teams. It's almost unfair to name individual players, and they were just fantastic athletes and fantastic players and fantastically dedicated to winning. But in 1989, there was certainly one thing that should come to mention, and that was Game 7 in the semifinals against Kitchener. They had forced us to a Game 7, so they were an awfully good team as well. Vince Dwyer pitched 15 innings, and we won 2-1. He threw something like 200 pitches that night, and there was no way he was going to come out of that game without either a win or a loss. And when we scored in the 15th, it was like the whole world just crashed down around us because it was such an amazing performance.
I really think that each team had their own identity. Each umpiring crew had their own identity, and it was a real, on the field we were enemies, but after the game we respected each other, and that's what made the league so good at that time.
Steve Rice, the writer for the Beacon Herald, actually came up with the name GWG, which was Gardner, Webb, and Grant, our 3 pitchers that really shut down the rest of the league. And I think we were 12-3 in the playoffs that year, and we were, I believe, 18 out of 20 wins in our last 20 games in the regular season. So we were pretty much unbeatable.
Just the heart and soul that went into every game. Dennis, was our fearless leader, and he probably wasn't the most talented player on the field, but no one worked harder than he did. Dennis was one where, kind of attitude reflected leadership on our team, and no one was a better leader than Dennis. To put a successful team on the field, it takes not only the players, but it takes the behind-the-scenes people, and we were very, very lucky with our executive that was there for many, many years and kind of perfected what it means to be a successful team. They spent lots of time, lots of hours helping with the fundraising, working the booth, selling the 50-50 tickets that afforded us to pay for umpires, pay for equipment, baseballs, whatever it took to make our team just go out and play the game and not have to worry about that aspect of everything.
There was just a banquet a few months back where the top 100 players in the entire history of the 100 years of the Intercounty were named. Six of those players were in our lineup. So, you know, I made a joke with John Farragher actually that he was named as one of the top 100 players in the history of the league, and yet he was hitting in the 7th hole in our lineup that year. So that's just how strong we were. And again, we smoked through the playoffs. And as I say, in that 4-year period, we were 47-15 in the playoffs. So that's pretty dominant, and I don't know that anybody's ever been that dominant in the history of the league. So we're pretty proud.